Good morning, y'all. Happy Tuesday. Let's get into the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta about last night. First off, I want to start by repeating something that Britt Edie said the previous episode. Okay. Remember when they were walking out of the bank and Kelly says, "Do you want me to call Mark, either Mark or Mike?" And Britt says, um, "We good. I got my pistol." Right. Then she mentions it again as they are walking out. Her husband walks up to her like she was looking for Mike. "Where's my husband? Where's Mike?" Mike comes walking up to her and goes, "Who was it?" As they're walking out, she says, "Kenya and her ditzy ass. I don't play that. Do that ish in front of the cameras. Don't play with me. I don't play them games. I don't play them games. I have whips and pistols and everything." I wanted to repeat that because I have seen, and I know I've said it in other videos that were not the review. I have seen other conversation suggesting that Britt did not, in fact, threaten Kenya. And I have said the only possible time I could see people trying to say that is the first time Britt mentioned her pistol. I don't agree, but the first time Britt mentioned her pistol when her and Kelly were talking off to the side, and Kelly says, "I should I call Mike or Mark? Either should she call Britt's husband or her security?" And she says, "We good. I got my pistol." But again, the second time, even though we don't see her mouth because she's going out, it doesn't sound Frankenstein in. It sounds like it was coming directly from that place and time when her husband says, "Who was it?" And Britt says, "Kenya and her ditzy." I don't play that. Don't do that ish in front of the cameras. Don't play with me. I don't play them games. I don't play them games. I have whips and pistols, everything. So she's saying it was Kenya. Don't do ish in front of the cameras because I don't play them games. I have whips and pistols, everything. Who was she talking about those whips and pistols for then? She may not have said, "I'm going to whip Kenya" or "I'm going to pow pow Kenya," but she indirectly threatened Kenya. If I was in an argument with someone and they said, "Don't, girl, don't play with me. Do not play with me, girl. I got whips and pistols for me," because that's what I would think. So, moving on to the episode, Shamia and Angela and Britt meet up well, Angela and Britt rather show up to Shamia's house. Angela arrives first, and uh, Shamia tells Angela, "I want you to feel comfortable in my home, um, and just everywhere. Thank you again for accepting my apology." Britt arrives, fresh faced, no makeup. I will say this: Britt is very pretty. Like, I know in the beginning, there was, when pictures were floating around, there was a lot of rumblings about plastic surgery and this and that and ooh ah. But I think they're all pretty. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was just not shocked, but I was like, oh wow, without all of that makeup, because I mean, I love makeup too, don't get me wrong. You could just see, we haven't seen her fresh face yet, even though it is only episode 4. But so I thought she looked pretty, but she shows up and she immediately goes into asking them, "Please don't be mad at me. I act a fool last night. I haven't even been able to sleep. I've hardly been able to sleep." And Angela says, "Neither have I." And Bert and Shamia want to know why. And she said, "Because the owners, she had to deal with the owners of the place because of all the commotion that went on." That's something that I never even thought of when these housewives are on these shows and if they have a connection to an establishment and then they bring the cast there. I assumed, I guess, that if you're allowing your business to be filmed for TV, what may happen, and you are okay with it because you don't think it's gonna get too far, maybe some loudness, some arguing, but your business is also going to be showcased because we see these places on shows and you're like, oh, when I'm out there, I'm gonna go there and see, oh, that looked beautiful. Oh, the food looked good. I'm gonna try it. So you know that there's a chance that it could help bring in customers. So I never thought about the opposite end of them being pissed off at the person that they know within the housewives group for bringing all of that commotion there. But I guess it's different if you got production, everybody outside uh, talking about guns and things and all of that stuff. So I could see that. Come to find out, Angela was the one that wrote the question now about can you talk to Britt nice? Now I'm going to say this. When Britt said, I didn't write the question, I promise, I believed she didn't. I thought she wrote the question, can you stay out of other women's marriages? Because remember when Drew was reading it, Britt corrected her because it said woman and Britt said women. So I assumed that was the question that she wrote. I thought maybe Kelly wrote the other question on behalf of Britt, but come to find out, it was Angela. Shamia says, huh, so you think too that Kenya has acted a certain way towards Britt. You think that she's been basically hazing. And Angela said, no, I was speaking on behalf of my friend, taking on my friend's feelings. Like, hey, my friend feels this way. Okay, I'm gonna put it out there. Britt said, but no, you agreed. And they flash back to the park. I didn't take that at the time at the park as Angela saying, I agree with you. Kenya has been this way to you. I took that as Britt saying, I feel like Kenya's been a certain way with me. What's she trying to haze me? I'm not down for that. I'm not going for that. And Angela's like, I get it. I get it. I just thought maybe she was saying, I hear you, but saying, I get it. Like, okay, girl, I hear you. Yep, I hear you. Your feelings are, you're valid in how you feel, not valid as in I see what you see, but you have the right to feel how you feel. Honestly, that's how I took it in the park. And so back in the scene, Angela's like, no, I was just basically supporting my friend. And Britt is like, okay. And Shamia is like, girl, you messy. Like, oh, you like a little sneaky. Mm-mm. So then Shamia asked Angela. Now this was important. This was a thing that I paid attention to. Shamia asked Angela if she mentioned to Charles about what Porsha said, and she was like, "No, listen, we're celebrities. I'm used to it. DMs are always open. There's nothing that can shake this foundation." So basically, I didn't even bother him with that. Oh, okay. Cool. That's cool. Moving on. Kenya, Porsha, and Kelly are at Kenya's salon. I thought it was so cute. I could see like their little trio. They all looked really pretty. I loved all their outfits or what have you. So Kenya is going to have a show. At the time, we don't necessarily know what kind of show, but we know she's having a show and she needs some models for the show. So she has those three come. A part of me wondered if she asked Cynthia, even though Cynthia was a friend of, but Cynthia couldn't maybe come. Because remember when Cynthia was doing the Bailey agency, Kenya, coochie crack, coochie crack. And they even showed a flashback to that. So Porsha was in her confessional saying that she loves her and Kenya's vibe. She loves where they are now and she hopes they stay there. So Porsha, so there was security at the door. So um, they made a joke about having security, and Kenya's like, I got my security today. So Kenya asked Porsha and Kelly, is y'all gonna get along? Because remember, why she take that lady's man? That's what that's what Kelly had been asking about Porsha. So Kenya's like, are y'all gonna be able to get along? And they like, girl, we good. But Kelly kind of makes a joke, like a little hand motion. And Kenya was like, well, I got my security. Y'all better behave. They show her security. Kelly says, I got my security outside. Porsha said, well, I'm my own security. So try it. I said, baby, y'all know she's not joking. She is her own security. Try it. She better take one of them boom mics and wrapped it around one of y'all's. Okay. Anyway, so they helping her, I guess. I don't know if they were really helping her judge the ladies or this is just a scene, which they all are scenes though, right? The models are coming in, doing their thing, what have you, what have you. After it was over, Kenya offers them wine. Kelly says, "You're a good host." And Kenya's like, "I've never been told that before." And they flash back to when they went on that trip before. And Kenya had ordered them, with the crab cakes, and everybody was hot because she didn't say nothing to them. She had door dashed herself some crab cakes, and that was it. So Porsha wants to know if she's invited everybody. And Kenya's like, "Yeah, I extended the invitation." They showed a flashback, which she did, right? She did an open invitation. "I'm having my grand opening. I want y'all to come." And Porsha says, even Britt. And Kenya's like, "Well, I didn't specifically invite her. Like, and I didn't specifically invite anyone." And so they're like, "But you didn't uninvite her." She said no. So Kenya starts to talk about how she feels about the night at the dinner. She said, "Look, we were having a good time. Everything was good. We were laughing about my big vagina." Porsha steps in and says, "Then it took a left," and Kenya disengaged. Um, she said, "Look, the stuff that happened at the table, meaning Britt and Kenya getting into it, it could be walked back. But at the point you mentioned a pistol, it's got to be broken all the way down. We got to find out what was said." So Kenya said, "Oh, I know what I heard." Kenya's like, "I know what I heard. Like, we can do an investigation all we want. I know exactly what I heard." So Kelly said, "Oh, I didn't hear it." All right. Kenya said, "This is crazy. I'm not playing, like, basically, I'm not about to play these games with y'all. This is crazy. I know what I heard. I'm not doing all this. I have too much to lose." And of course, when you know what happens already, you're like, "Oh my gosh." The foreshadowing of it all just, mm, I have too much to lose. And she's right. So uh, Kelly was telling Kenya she's not that person. And Kenya was like, "Hold on. You can't tell me who she is and who she isn't." And I get that. I have been guilty of that in the past. Like, someone will say, "Well, I think so and so is this." Now, I will say this: if you've never met a person, but you're going based off of what you see or what you perceive you see, meaning I'm going to use them on TV, right? We know what we've seen of Kenya on TV. I don't even want to use that really, but I guess, well, TV life and real life, we have to say they are two totally different things, because in real life, we wouldn't be sitting around a bunch of women we didn't care for having lunch and things like that, right? Or didn't know and had no interest in getting to know. But I will say this: I agree with Kenya in that don't tell me how somebody is not when just because my experience with them and of them has been different from yours. You can't tell me that. If somebody abused me and then they're with you and they don't abuse me, don't tell me that that's not that person. That's not who they are. That's who they were to me. So don't invalidate. You can say you've never experienced that, but you can't invalidate my experience. So I felt that with Kenya. Like, Kenya knows what she experienced with Britt. Kelly, you may not have, but don't sit here and tell me she's really not that person. Well, that if she ain't that person came out, and what made it came out? Because I didn't do anything to warrant that. I called her a peasant. That didn't warrant her saying she got whips and pistols. Anyway, so so Porsha is saying, Kenya needs to do her due diligence and talk to other people that was there. Kenya said, "Oh, I'm gonna do my due diligence and background check her." I said, well, she let us know. In her confessional, Kelly said, "Girl, background check these employees. Make sure they can do the job." We move on. Angela and her daughter meet up at a coffee shop. Angela's daughter wants to open a Peruvian, have her own coffee shops. In her confessional, Angela talks about how close her and her daughter are and the bond they have because her daughter lost her father at 7. So she just had Angela, her mom, to lean on. So that created a really tight bond. So they get to talking. Angela's daughter's like, "Where? I thought grandma was going to be here so we could all lay our cards on the table." She didn't show up. We find out Angela's daughter lives with her grandma, which is Angela's mom, and Angela's sister, the aunt. Angela's daughter. And I was a little bit like not confused, but like trying to keep up. Like, wait, what happened? Angela's daughter wanted to use the car that Angela bought for the mother. The aunt steps in and says no, called the child a demon, got in her face. This is according to Angela's daughter, Amari. Her name is Amari. I can remember that because that's my youngest daughter's middle name. Anyway, Amari. So Amari wanted to use the car. Again, that's not hers nor the aunt's, but it's actually the grandmom's. And the aunt stepped in and is like, no, called Amari a demon, all this stuff. Angela says, I didn't know that. Nobody told me that. You should have called me and let me know. Um, and the daughter just like, yeah, she went off on me and I don't know why. She said, I didn't expect that because I help them with everything. I help them with their bills and everything. So I guess maybe she feels like, and she says, and you're going to say, I can't use a car that's not even yours. I mean, if the grandmom said yes, but the aunt said no, and it's the grandmom's car, I can understand the daughter's point of view. I also feel like, I don't know. We don't know these people. We don't know what's going on. We especially don't know the daughter and what's going on with the grandmom and all that. But there was a sense of maybe entitlement that I got, but maybe it's not entitlement. Maybe it's just I help you out with everything. I'm just asking you to use the car. I don't know. Either way, it's the grandmama's car. The grandmama, not the baby, but it's the grandmama's car. Like, what's going on? So Angela's just basically and Amari's telling her mom, you need to stop helping them. You need to stop taking care of them. And Angela's like, look, that's my mom. She needs help. And then in her confessional, she talks about how her mom, when she was younger, when Angela was younger, her mom was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And now, and this time, Angela's mom has said that she self-proclaimed healed herself. That's what Angela has said. So she says, look, her mom needs help with the bills and all of that stuff. So then they get to Amari running off and getting married. They show a flashback. Angela says, basically, you didn't tell me. And Amari's playing silly. Tell you what. And Angela's like, tell you what. She's like, that you're married. And she found out from the grandmom. So the grandmom knew. So I wonder if the aunt and the grandmom knew. Amari flipped that script so quick. This is too much. This is just too much. Feels like, like a gang up. And she starts crying, which then makes Angela feel bad. And Angela's like, look, we're closer than that. I should have known that. I'm your mom. And this is too much. A part of me wondered, to be honest, did the fight happen because the grandmom and the aunt was like, look, you live here. You don't have your own place to live. You done ran off and got married to somebody. Now y'all got to live here. You ain't got no car. What's going on? Is it that, or is there red flags with the guy? And she didn't want to hear them say, you don't need to be married. Don't get married. So she just ran off and did it. So they wrapped that conversation up because Amari put them tears on, child, and they were out. Britt and Porsha meet up. Now, in her confessional, Britt came in the Shamia's very on the humble, like, I'm so apologetic. I'm so sorry. And then she meets with Porsha. And in her confessional, she says, look, I took it too far with Kenya. There's no excuse for my actions. I wish it never happened altogether. She never wants anyone to feel like she's threatening towards them. Hopefully, Kenya will accept her apology and they can move forward. Here's what I felt, and y'all let me know if y'all felt this. The way that Britt came into Shamia's and the way that Britt is coming into this lunch with Porsha, or this meetup with Porsha, she's very much, oh my gosh, I never would want Kenya to think that I was threatening her. She mentioned the word threaten at Shamia's before they even really got into it. She started off like out the bat saying that immediately before they even got into all the things. In her confessional, because remember the confessionals are filmed afterwards, after the season, she's apologetic. I can understand why afterwards, because of course it's filmed after. So now you want to make sure people know, oh, I'm sorry. But in this moment, right after it happened, when she was at Shamia's and with Porsha, I want to know how she knew Kenya felt threatened. Who told you that? Because remember, again, Britt mentioned it before Shamia brought it up. She went right into it. And the way she was with Porsha, with Shamia and Angela, and then with Porsha at this lunch, I got the sense, did somebody call her and say, this ain't good? Kenya really was upset. Kenya contacted people at Bravo to let them know. So did those same people then call Britt and give her a heads up and say, look, that wasn't good? And so Britt comes in to these scenes very apologetic, probably hoping that her job wasn't on the line because Kenya has made a complaint. I just started filming. So now I got like a nervous energy from her. So she, uh, Porsha tells her, I'm shocked that you had beef because when I first met you, y'all were all sitting on a couch together at Shamia's house. Britt says, I thought they were cool, but I feel like Kenya puts on a little bit when she's around the group. And I was like, put on for who? The city? Because I don't even mean this I think everybody's of equal importance, whether you're the president or the janitor, whether you're on reality TV or you're a rideshare driver temporarily. Um, it doesn't matter whether you're the engineer or the ones mopping the floors. However, I'm going to keep this in context of reality TV. Kenya is a vet. Hazing is one thing. Not saying it's right, but we know sometimes the ladies want to haze the new girls a little bit. But I don't think she was putting on for the group because I don't think Kenya, and not just Kenya, a lot of the vets, I'm sure, do this. Maybe ain't looking at you like, girl, you're not anybody that I have to try to create a scene or a moment with or put on for. Y'all see what I'm saying? Like, not to down Britt, but I don't feel like Kenya was looking at her like, yeah, this is somebody I'm gonna go ahead and put on and like when I'm with the group. It don't even seem like Kenya was really thinking about her. You know what I'm saying? So, but she believes that Kenya uh puts on for her. She said, I think with Kenya, it's the tone. Like when she met me, she was like, hi, I heard you were married. Where's your band? That is not even how it happened. She didn't say it like that. I think, again, I was with Kenya in that because I'm from an era where if you don't have a band, people do think you're just engaged. I don't have a band now. And I told y'all before, I remember thinking, oh, I need to get a band so people know I'm married. Then I was like, I'll get a band in time. I know I'm married, right? So whether people think it or not, that ain't my problem. And I think that's truly where Kenya was coming from. Like, oh, because she didn't see a band, not like, oh, I'm trying to get into your marriage. But anyway, Britt said she was dismissed. Kenya was dismissive and nasty, and she felt like Kenya was targeting her. So Porsha's like, well, she didn't do it to Kelly or any other girl. That does go back to and me saying when Kelly was telling Kenya, I haven't had that experience with Britt. And Kenya's like, I have though. So when Britt says, I have nothing to do with that, that's my experience. Although I didn't see what Britt says she experienced, I can't invalidate it. And I don't want to hear how she hasn't been like that with any of the other newbies because right now I'm talking about me. So although me, the viewer, I feel like I ain't see that, I get when she's telling Porsha, it doesn't matter how she's been to Kelly and any other new girls. I'm talking about me, you know? So Porsha said, there were preconceived notions and, people definitely think Kenya is the queen bee coming in. I could see how you could feel that and want to put them in that box, like, oh, she's this queen bee. But then Porsha got in her confessional. When I tell you, Porsha clocked it. Porsha said, your preconceived notion, and again, this is Porsha in her confessional, your preconceived notion will come from you seeing Kenya in full-blown action with people who you don't like. Then they show a flashback of Kenya getting into it with basically her. She said, because she was ready to go toe-to-toe with that Kenya, but she's meeting a different Kenya. And this Kenya don't give a damn at this moment. And that's exactly it. She had preconceived notions and her actions were based on what she's seen on TV and not what she experienced of Kenya. Let's go back to Britt's confessional after her and Angela were in the park walking. She said, Kenya gives off nice, nasty based on preconceived notions. She's used the words preconceived notions herself. So now Porsha is confirming that. Britt has come in, watched the show, feel like, and instead of saying, I'm going to try to erase it all and get and experience Kenya for myself, I'm coming in acting like I already have experience with this person when the only experience I have is watching them on TV. So I felt like in that moment, Porsha really clocked it. So Porsha said, now look, the back and forth at the table, that is not an issue. You can get past that. But when you mention a pistol, um, she said when Shamia and I took her home, she was sure she heard that with her own ears and she was afraid. And Britt was like, oh, she was afraid. And you could see Britt being like, okay. Britt said, I was triggered by everything that was going on, the environment they were in, all of that with Kenya. It's interesting she was triggered by what was going on with Kenya because, girl, Kenya called you a peasant, said, you want your moment, have your moment, got up, they all left the table, and you were arguing with yourself. She said, I was in a lot of situations that I don't put myself in. Porsha said, yeah, I get it. It could all be in the moment, right? Yep, you're right. It could all be in that moment. In my moment, my heated moment at Shamia's, if we got to the elevator and I said, I wish I had my pencil, who you think I want it for? I said, that was a good example, Porsha. Again, that was a really good example. Britt said, I know that was not the time for me to talk about a pistol and I take full accountability. It just completely looks bad. I felt like in that moment, she was talking about the show, filming the show. It completely looks bad. In her confessional, she said, I just want to stress I was not going to do anything to hurt Kenya. I was like, somebody gave her the heads up. We had Angela and Charles' house. Charles is always cooking. That chicken did look good. So Angela calls him in. She's like, look, I want you to go to the grand opening with me. He said, I got hair. What, I got a shape up the other day. Then she brings up the comment that Porsha made about him. I think it's funny because, of course, I mean, yeah, you would bring it up to your husband, but when they asked her when Shamia asked her at the house, she had this attitude. She like brushed it off, like, no, he mentioned that because I'm married to a celebrity. My DMs is open. Ain't nothing that can break us over here. I ain't even thinking about that. But you are because you mentioned it to Charles. Again, it's normal to mention it to your spouse. I would mention it to Corey. And I think if cameras weren't there, you may play it to somebody who asks you, girl, Porsha said about your husband at dinner the other night. Girl, I'm cool on that, child. He is a celebrity. I get that all the time. We good over here. I know ain't nothing going on with that. Then at home, you may go and mention it to your husband, but ain't no cameras there to be like, oh, but you said over here you was cool. So, but I also get why she mentioned it to him. Like, I'm just putting this out here. So, uh, in her confessional, she says, she thinks that people think her husband is her soft spot. She said, you can speculate all day, but don't say nothing about my husband. I said, but Porsha did. Anyway, Charles says, she don't know me. She better stay in her lane because she barking up the wrong tree. I said, Lord. Angela said, let me handle it. He said, you should have handled it then. So they go downstairs to eat. He was like, oh, I got food cooking. They go downstairs. Angela washed her hands. I'm assuming she used soap or whatever, and she picked up a piece of chicken. Charles was like, wash your hands. She said, I did, but she brings up her mom and her sister. And he's like, look, I ain't talked to my sister either lately. And he said, I don't want to hear about it. I don't have time to be taking care of people and then begging them to do something. So that confirms that they are taking care of them. But I guess they just do whatever it is they want to do, child. So the ladies start arriving at the spa. They're doing like the little red carpet interviews. It was cute. Porsha has the mic and says how happy she was to be there. Her and Kenya are in a really good spot. Kenya's her friend. She's happy to be there. Miss Lawrence is there. Him and Kenya have a moment. He says Kenya Moore is the first person that taught him how to put hair clips on a track. Kelly picks up Britt in a Sprinter van. They go together. Britt has flowers and a card for Kenya. In her confessional, Britt says she genuinely wants to make things right with Kenya. So her and Kelly toast to their friendship and riding together till the wheels fall off. I said, child, they about to fall off. You on two of them now. Y'all just don't know it yet. So Kenya had a Bronner Brothers-esque hair battle. It was cute. There was people that did that were really talented. Porsha, Cynthia, and Shamia are talking, and Cynthia's like, child, I heard all hell broke loose when I wasn't there. What happened? So Porsha was going to tell her. Shamia brings up, by the way, I had Angela and Britt over, and Cynthia is confused. Like, wait, you and Angela that made up? Because remember, Angela and Shamia had got into it the last time Cynthia was there. So she then says to Porsha, "Well, did you and Drew make up? Like, did I miss that?" Porsha said, "No, you didn't miss it. That didn't happen." Cynthia said it didn't happen yet. Porsha says, "I'm good on her pretty much." And we're back in the sprinter. We learned that Britt's aunt has passed away. She had a stroke, then went to life support, and they had to pull the plug. It reminds her of her dad. She's dealing with a lot right now. Britt's energy is very different, very, very different. So back at the spot, Cynthia wants to 411, like, well, what happened at Angela's event? In the meantime, Angela was there and had given Kenya a hug. And Kenya had pulled her to the side and thanked her for being the only one that checked on her after all of that. Angela says, "You didn't deserve that. And I believe you saw I meant that in the text I sent." So Angela's text sent multiple texts to Kenya. "Hi, Kenya. You looked amazing last night. I was grateful for your presence. I just wanted to let you know that I did not appreciate what happened to you." Angela says, "I apologize for you not feeling safe as a mother and as an elevated Black woman. I support your stance." As an elevated Black. Okay. So Um, Kenya says, "Look, I know that it could have escalated and gotten bigger had I not walked away." Angela let her know, "I'm on your side. I'm on your side." So at this point, I just had to reflect back to Angela at Shamia's house with Britt. And it could seem like Angela's kind of straddling the fence a little bit, or it's not being made clear. Like, Britt, I like you. I tried to support you in how you felt that Kenya was treating you. That's why I wrote the question. However, you did too much. And she's telling Kenya, "I'm on your side with it. I don't agree with what Britt did." I think if she had been a little more clear in her stance, but then again, I don't know what y'all think. Do y'all think she was clear, or do y'all think she was um, playing like both sides, of the fence? So we back to Cynthia, Porsha, and Shamia. And Cynthia says, "So is Britt coming?" Porsha said, "I don't think she's coming." Because remember, she had just met up with uh, Britt and she knew Britt's energy. Shamia said, "You also can't get mad if somebody doesn't accept your apology." So as it's funny, how production puts it together, how the editors put it together. They're saying, "We don't think she's coming. Is she coming?" We see her on the way with Britt in the sprinter van. So Kelly's telling Britt, "Look, I think you'll be good. You only get one grand opening. You showing up for a very important moment for her may say a lot." Um, Angela is saying maybe they can have a come to Jesus moment back at the salon. And Porsha said, "I don't get that sense from Kenya. I feel like Kenya is very offended. And sometimes when you're very offended, you retaliate back." And she's definitely in that mood. I said, not Porsha being a prophet. What? She's been filming with Kenya for what? They're on season 16. They filmed what, season 5? And Porsha hasn't been on what, the last 2 seasons? So this would have been 11. So they filled basically 9, 10 years together. She knows her castmate. They all know each other's tricks and things. When Porsha said, "I don't get that sense from Kenya," I almost got chills. She said, "I get that she's very offended. And sometimes when you're offended, you retaliate back." And she's definitely in that mood. I said, my God, today. So, in this was funny. I know that we may have our issues with Porsha. We may have our issues with all the ladies. But I can say, speaking for the vets, they are all funny. Cynthia's funny, can have her fun, like in her confessionals. Porsha's funny, Kenya's funny. So Britt shows up with Kelly in the confessional. Porsha was so quick. The producer says, "When you see Britt, what's your first thought?" Porsha said, "Is her wig tacked down?" Mine is tacked down. Mine is tacked down for her. So they're all there. They're all talking. And Kelly is saying to the ladies, Britt was hesitant to come. And Shamia said, "Well, look," to Britt, "if she ain't want you in here, security would have put you out." And Cynthia says she's known for putting people out of events. Porsha said, take your plants back. And they all look at Porsha like, what? Porsha said, I'm just speaking from experience. Remember, Porsha got put out of Kenya's housewarming and she got put out of what party? Kenya threw a party and wanted people to come dressed as some people, different people. I meant to look it up and forgot. Remember, Kenya wanted Porsha to come dressed as someone, but Porsha showed up as Dorothy Dandridge and she put her out of the party. I can't, who did she want Porsha to be? I'm going to go back and look, but Porsha has been put out of party. So, like she said, take your plans. Speaking from experience, you may be put out. And I'm thinking Porsha was thinking that was going to be the retaliatory move that Kenya was going to pull. Little did she know, y'all, by this point in the episode, my body's getting tense because even though we know what's happening, we know what's happening. How was y'all feeling like leading up to and then being at the event and then also looking at the time like, y'all better show us something this week because it's almost time for the episode to go off. So Drew gets there and goes to hug Porsha and she says, I won't bite. Porsha says, oh, you won't in my face? So Drew's like, oh, let me hug everybody else. So then Drew was like, look, I want us to be able to talk. I don't want it to be weird. And Cynthia pipes in and says, I agree. It's awkward. Porsha said, you ain't even been here. Shut up. Porsha ain't really trying to hear what Drew has to say. I want it to be wrapped up because we need to get to the main event. But Drew tries to be cute. Drew says, look, everybody knows I'm going through a divorce and he's crazy. Why would I be stupid enough to mess with your baby daddy? You can have his hot dog. Porsha said, is that supposed to be cute enough? Is that supposed to be cute? And basically enough, move it along. They kind of go back and forth. And in their back and forth, Porsha tells Drew, don't come at me like you're singing a song because I can make you ring. At first, I was like, yes, Porsha bar. And then I said, but what does that mean? Is Drew's song about a ring? Like, I didn't, like, you know how something can sound good coming off the tongue real quick. Then you're like, no, I don't understand. Don't come at me like you're singing a song because I can make you ring. I was like, do you mean her ears? Are you going to knock her upside the head? Like, so Porsha walks away in her confessional. Drew says, look, I tried 3 times to talk to Porsha. No more trying. She hasn't wanted to meet down. She hasn't wanted to meet with me. Cool. She tried once. She canceled. She hasn't rescheduled. In her confessional, Porsha says, I was going to meet up, but I got sick and I ain't rescheduled with Drew Sidora. Drew Sidora. Back in Drew's confessional, I do agree with her with this part. She said, when I see you, I feel like we should talk about it because you approached me in front of the group. And I agree with that. You approached me you didn't pull me to the side. You didn't set up a scene one-on-one for us to have this conversation. You approached me in front of the group. Child. I'm supposed to be out on the road. I got an alarm go off every episode. Anyway, y'all got 1,000 alarms. But anyway, Drew was like, you approached me in front of the group. We should be able to talk in front of the group. I do agree with that. I do. Hold on, y'all. Let me make sure that I didn't just snooze it and it doesn't go back off again. Okay. Child, we get through that. But Porsha says then, and Drew said it doesn't seem fair that basically I can't pin Porsha down. Like when she said it doesn't seem fair, I got the sense like it's not fair that she gets to have this story, say all these things to me, and I can't even have conversation back. What I do think is interesting, Drew was like, we didn't talk, Porsha. We didn't mention Dennis. And Portia's blowing past that, not answering her. Go back to Shamia's house. Dennis invited Porsha to go to the party. Porsha says she sees pictures of Drew. Drew looks washed. So she called Drew and said, are you okay? How are you feeling? And Drew brought up Dennis on that phone call. So what is the issue? Because Porsha, you admitted that yourself. So what's the issue? Is the issue that she did bring up working with Dennis and you were cool with that, but she didn't bring up doing it on camera? Anyway, enough of them. Dead it and move on. But lastly, though, on that, in her confessional, Porsha did say, look, I was going to meet up with her after I found out more information on what she was up to, which I think reaching out to Johnny, I no longer want to meet with her. Let's move on. Britt walks in with these beautiful flowers and tries to apologize to Kenya. Kenya truly does pay her dust in that moment. She's like, what are y'all talking about over here? What's going on? Britt's like, hi, Kenya. I'm really sorry. What y'all talking about over here? So Britt was like, okay. So Britt puts the flowers down. She's like, okay, that's cool. You can ignore me. I'm just going to leave these flowers here. Have a great event. Britt hugs everybody, lets them know she's leaving. Kelly walks her outside. They come back in. Kenya starts out her speech. Thanks everybody for coming. Says it's been a labor of love. She built the salon for her daughter and she's proud of where she is. Y'all, this is where my secondhand embarrassment started like creeping in. She says, and I think what really made it even more like is that Britt is not even in here, you know? Um, she says, the salon is for my daughter, and I'm proud of where she's proud of where she is. She said, but people try to bring me down for no reason, and I'm sick of it, and I'm not taking it anymore. She's like, the other night, a person was looking for a moment, and she came for me. And then she looks at the flowers. I guess she wants people to know who she's talking about, specifically the group. And she says, get rid of these flowers, give them to somebody homeless. So Kelly's like, wait, sir, let me get the card off of it. So Kelly comes back with the card and Kenya's like, don't keep the card, burn it. Kelly said, okay. Kenya says, stay out of it. I said, oh, here come Kenya. Kenya said, it escalated because I was paying her dust because I'm that bitch. I was that bitch, am that bitch, and will always be. And then blows dust. Like, she doesn't kiss, she blows dust. She said, I'm going to pay you dust. And then somebody in the crowd said, I know that's right. So that was so random. She said, then she talks about, then this person had a gun. Do you know who the F I am? Wow. I was just like, oh, like you want to stop it in slow motion. You're like, no. Because the person was saying, do you know who the F I am? Do you know who the F I am? I will say, if it wasn't the pictures, Kenya would have caught the way she tied the moments in. Because I was wondering, how is she going to introduce these pictures? Like when she was doing her moment, like how was she going to introduce the pictures? She says the person was like, do you know who the F I am? So Kenya, who is smart, says, no, I don't know who the F she is. So I said, let me find out. And I was like, oh, that's how she's introducing it. So then she pulls out a poster board, which I assume is Britt Edie in the different phases of her life, pre-filler, pre-nose job, all of that stuff. And I'm just assuming she has a nose job. Britt said, so Kenya said, who is this hoe? Britt Edie is her name. I said, my God, today, even though we knew, it's like, oh boy. Kelly says, oh no, I'm not doing this. So Kenya says, can we see the nose job, the lips, the fillers, all that? Kelly said, oh, she need to pipe down. In her confessional, Porsha says, Kenya is crazy. and says, if this is just the first one, where is this going? Oh, baby, thought you never asked, honey. She brought out the poster board, I guess, of Britt being a video hoe. She said she was a trap whore. That's when Kelly starts walking out. I will say Britt has made mention multiple times that she was a video vixen and in men's magazines in high school. So was there an element to Kenya showing these pictures, and was Britt underage? Like during the investigation did they discover that Britt was underage in these pictures, so they didn't want to promote that? I'm just wondering, like, so Kenya said, look, she was a trap whore. I used to be paid a stack to show up. She been a hoe. Oh, no, I'm sorry. She said she was a hoe. I used to get paid stacks for an appearance. As Kelly's walking out, she said, everybody been a hoe in their day. She been a hoe too. Come on now. In her confessional, Kelly says, Here we are at your beautiful salon. We're here to celebrate you. Why the F are we discussing Britt at your grand opening? And I agreed with her. So Kelly is outside. Mind you, Britt is still outside. So as Kelly's walking out to her, she says, "We getting the F out of here, ho." So Britt's like, "Oh, it's time. Like, it's that time. It's time to go." And Kelly says, "I'm not going to allow her to disrespect my friend." Child, we back inside. It's even more awkward. Kenya says, and then they kept sending me more information, talking about the people that gave her the previous information on Britt. And she pulls out the poster board, which I'm assuming is Britt being a throat goat. Baby. Bravo puts up a black screen and says, due to the graphic nature of these photographs, Bravo has chosen not to exhibit them. You hear Cynthia in the background, and it seems like it's Frankenstein in. And for those of y'all that don't know what Frankenstein is, meaning they probably already had done the scene and they have them come in and record. Like, I need you to record this line or say this line again. Because it was very clear. Like, it picked up Cynthia saying that very clear. But Cynthia says, ain't nobody trying to see somebody sucking somebody's dick. This is just crazy. So clearly we know it is not a picture of Britt with a drawn penis next to her face. It actually is Britt in the act. In her confessional, Drew's like, "Where did you get this and why are we seeing it? Why isn't it blown up?" Shamia in her confessional was like, "You can say I've seen pictures of you. I got receipts. But to show it, I could not believe my eyes." Kenya is holding up. Kenya is literally holding up the poster board of Britt. And I'm laughing, not because it's funny, but because it's just like, you can't believe this is happening, right? Because she's holding that picture up facing the ladies. And Shamia says, "Kenya, that's too far." Kenya said, "No, it ain't, bitch. She threatened me with a gun. Don't tell me it's too far." In her confessional, Porsha says she's mortified. "I did not want to stand there and seem like I was in agreement with this. I'm not in agreement with this." So Porsha walks out. Kenya says Britt was trying to take food out of her daughter's mouth. And I was like, I don't know. I don't no way near agree with the stuff that Britt said about the pistols and the whips and just the beef that the moment she wanted, the moment with Kenya that she accused Kenya of wanting with her. I do believe she wanted that moment. Now we're doing this, and Kenya would be the one. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you lose your job because of being retaliatory, you are the one that made the decision to be retaliatory. And, you know, one thing we all, like, I've heard people say, when they go low, I go to hell. And shout out to DJ Richie Sky, because he made a comment. And I even thought about that for myself, because I'm like, with my mouth, I know that people, "Oh, you go low, girl, we can go to the floor, to the gutter." But he said, when people say, "You go low, I go to hell," he said, from what I hear, hell is hot. He said, so you're willing to burn up everything you worked for? And I was like, that was a good point. You're willing to burn up everything that you worked for. I said, okay. So Kenya says Britt was trying to take food out of her daughter's mouth. All this is going on, and Britt is not even in the building. She said, this is what it's about. That's why she's going as low as she's going, because Britt was trying to take food out of her daughter's mouth. She said, "So thank you so very much for supporting me. And now I know who I can trust. Don't come for me." And the crowd says, "Unless I send for you." And she says, "Thank you." In her confessional, Cynthia said, "What's lower than hell? What's worse than hell? Whatever it is, we're there now." So you see, Shamia, Porsha, and Angela are already outside. Angela says she feels bad because she told Britt, maybe you should go and try to show some support. All the ladies are in their confessional saying what Kenya did wasn't cool. It was disgraceful. Porsha said, back talking to the ladies, Porsha said, whatever the turn of events were going to be, you wouldn't do something like that in the public at your event. That was for people. In her confessional, Porsha said, this was Kenya's big day. This was many, many years of blood, sweat, and tears and effort. To come to this moment, I feel like she literally threw it away. Inside, Cynthia tells Kenya, I just want to say this really quickly to you, and then I have to go. I didn't see what happened, meaning with Britt. I'm just getting to know Britt, but I know you. I really hate that you let that in this way. I think you're bigger than this. I think you're better than this. Kenya says, I am. Cynthia says, I love you. And Kenya goes to say, listen, I'm glad everybody came. Cynthia said, listen, we will talk. Congratulations. I love you. I'll call you later. Yo, I thought Cynthia was going to cry. In interviews, she has said she had tears in her eyes at the moment. Like, I think I think Cynthia was really kind of rattled. Like, I can't believe my friend did this. I do think that. So Cynthia leaves. Kenya says, I'm not going to tolerate people disrespecting me anymore. And it was Britt and Kenya's friend. Not Britt, I'm sorry. It was Drew and Kenya's friend standing there. In the meantime, outside, Porsha tells production, she says, production, we're ready to go right now. Like, I don't even want to be on camera no more. I wanted you to turn that off of me. Then she walks over to someone and says, I wanted you to take my mic off because you could just act like I was never even at this event. A black screen comes up and says, based on Kenya's behavior, the decision was made to cease filming with her this season. Child, that was the end of the episode. Ooh, child, that was something else. What everyone knew was coming, it was still shocking. There's been conversation. Was Kenya justified? Should she not have done it? I have said so many times before, you can't provoke somebody, come for somebody, say something to somebody, and dictate how they respond, which is true. But also the person responding has to know that with your response, there may be repercussions. I do think that, well, I'm going to say this. I want to know what their investigation entailed, because for Britt to not get any kind of consequence for saying that. And look, there are people saying this is Britt's fault because if Britt had never mentioned pistols and whips, Kenya wouldn't have felt threatened and did this. We have to be clear and say Kenya is an adult that is in full control and in charge of her own actions. So she didn't have to. I get why she retaliated. I do. But I'm not going to blame her bringing the poster board on Britt, because she could have chose to retaliate in a different way. She could have done that when they were all at a dinner and had the poster boards at dinner, right? She could have planned to have a sit down with all the ladies after her spa, talk about the opening, thank them all for coming, and then did that or whatever. And I have questioned before, Kenya was scared. I do believe that Kenya felt like, okay, this is crazy. I've never experienced this. She probably was a little bit shook that night. Her energy, like even her standing at the car with her phone, she was like, my car is not here, like acting like she's ignoring it, but probably really listening to everything that Britt was carrying on and saying. There is a part of me that is like, Kenya was scared, but then you would retaliate in that way. You don't think that could escalate it even more? I don't know. There's also this, we always talk about production, right? And it's like, what is the role of production? And what do we want them to do? Meaning, I had a good conversation with someone who is two people that were produced, that one is a producer and one was producing on shows. And they said, because I said, would someone on production have known she was doing that with the poster board and all that? And they said, yeah, probably. Yeah. The thing is, producers aren't there to step in to give advice. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to step in. They're not supposed to give advice. They're supposed to produce the moments that you give them. So if you say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, they're not supposed to say, well, if I were you, I would do it this way. If I were you, I would do it. Like, basically, they're not, well, They're not supposed to say, do this, do that. We all know the producers may encourage them, oh, you feel this way? Have a conversation about it. But they're not supposed to be telling you to feel a certain way. You get what I'm saying? Like they produce based off, they're supposed to be producing based off your original feelings, not giving you the feeling and telling you what to do with the feeling they just gave you. So I thought about that. As a producer, we would like to think that they would have stepped in and said, you sure you want to do this? But then again, it's their job to be like, she want to do it. I ain't gonna stop her. I'm gonna produce this moment. But then who gave Britt the heads up? Because I feel like, was it production that gave her heads up, the people that were there? Or Kenya made a complaint. So was it the higher ups that maybe called or had a conversation with someone and told them to have a conversation with Britt? Right? Because it's like two sides to it. Right. I don't want production telling these women, you're supposed to feel this way and giving them a feeling. I want the women to have their authentic feelings and then production show and produce their authentic feelings, right? If that makes sense. So there is a conversation. Where is production in all this? Should they have stepped in, and have they stepped in with other wives and said, don't do this, don't do that? Or do they truly let them do their own thing and then produce those moments? What do y'all think? What role do you think production should have played in this with Kenya? I want to know. I've refused to believe that Britt did not get a phone call or heads up. But the energy that she came in, it was like she was all the way down, almost like a docile little puppy, like coming in. And the only way I could see her, she had to get that information about Kenya being concerned and scared, because in the scene, Shamia tells her, in the scene, she was scared. And then in lunch, Porsha tells her she was scared. Or Shamia might not have used the word scared, but she definitely let it be known like she was very uncomfortable. But Porsha used the word scared. Those two told you in scenes. I wonder when the investigation happened, how soon after, and how they came to the conclusion that Britt could continue to film again and not have any repercussion for what she said. How did they come to the conclusion that there was no threat? How did they make that statement last year about no threats or guns? How does Britt make a statement? She's never been to jail. She doesn't own any weapons. I didn't threaten her, knowing that there was that what you said. How? I really need somebody to tell me how. How does Britt not even get a consequence? And I think that's what people's issue is. Kenya's consequences, we're not going to film with you anymore. You went too low. But how is it that Britt gets to mention pow pows? I've said it, so I might as well. And there was nothing that was done to her. I think if people felt that it was equal punishment, or Britt, at least even if she had to stop filming for 5 episodes or whatever, or it got suspended, I think people would be a bit more satisfied. Like, okay, you know what? I feel like Britt started this with Kenya, but I can see, okay, Kenya took it to this level, but at least they both got something. But for Britt it seems like Britt got away scot-free. I did a video yesterday and I showed y'all Britt. Kenya had responded after the episode. Britt had did a post before the episode. And I meant to say it in the video, but it was only in my mind. And I thought, well, maybe I didn't read it right. Her caption said, and I'm still here. I'm still standing strong. But I knew that wasn't the original caption. The original caption was, and I'm still here, which is why people were saying, enjoy your one season, enjoy your one season for one season because of that caption. Then she changed it. I don't know. This is just, I just hate that Kenya did this at her event when it was so awkward, like you could feel, I can't imagine being in the room, like, because I was awkward through the screen watching it. Like, I felt like, oh my goodness, she worked so hard for this. Like Porsha said, years of blood, sweat, and tears. I don't know. It's just, ooh, I do wonder. And I said this in my video yesterday with the amount of conversations being had surrounding Kenya not getting any confessionals, at least up until she was gone. People want her to be able to tell her side. Is she going to come to the reunion? And is she going to be a part of next season? I don't know. I just felt like the speech was like rambling. I was like, Kenya, no, don't do this. Twirl, please, please, please don't do this. But whew, I don't know, y'all. It was a lot. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the episode. I'm going to continue watching for the rest of the season. I'm not one of those that's like, I'm out. I'm going to continue watching. And I heard that Britt's supposed to be on Watch. Somebody said Britt was supposed to be on. One of y'all in the comments, thank you. Let me know that Britt is supposed to be on Watch What Happens Live Sunday. I'm tuned in because I want to see if they ask her about her comments. Because if they don't ask her, to me, that is going to be a problem. I know Andy got to do his job and tap dance and all that for the network, but I don't think that's fair to not address what she said, which is no, yes, Kenya is responsible for her own actions. However, for every action, there's a reaction. Let's talk about the action that took place also, not just the reaction. It's fair to talk about both. So I want Britt to address it and ask them why. I want her to be asked why she lied last year in her posts. Anyway, shout out to Kenya. Your salon, the spa is absolutely gorgeous. No matter what, whether it's Kenya or anybody else, I would never want to see them, as far as money wise, like not be able to make their money some way. You know what I'm saying? Even the housewives that I don't want to see on my screen, I may not want to see you on my screen, but I want you to have all your streams of income off my screen. And I'm talking about other housewives that I'm like, oh, I don't want to see you no more. But shout out to Kenya. And I hope that we can see her at the reunion. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Are y'all team somebody? Are y'all team Britt? Are y'all team Kenya? Are you team Truth? Are you team Fair? I love y'all so much, and I will talk to y'all later. Happy Tuesday. See ya.